The chain was wrapped around the gate and secured with a tough-looking padlock. I wouldn't have been able to break the chain, or the padlock. The door was locked. Looking through the window, I could see that there was nothing in the van. Hobbs must have taken the portfolio inside. The large dumpster was full of garbage. Climbing drain pipes was something I preferred to avoid, unless I had a great reason to do so. The drain pipe was more rust than iron. There was a light on up above, and I could hear music playing. Someone had to be home. It was Hobbs's mailbox. There was a note hanging out. For a second, I debated the morality of mail snooping. It was a short debate, and I won. I decided to open the letter. Dear Mr. Hobbs, due to previous incidents, we are writing to inform you that we will no longer be sending models to your address. It went on to discuss Hobbs's temper and other alleged infractions, some of which still carry the death sentence in certain less sophisticated cultures. Interesting. This could come in useful. The letter advised Mr. Hobbs that no more models would be sent to his address. I don't think Hobbs can hear us. Piles of junk, mostly boxes of old paints and scraps of picture frames. Mixed in were wires, cardboard, and some dubious-looking old clothes. George Stobart.
Ah, Monsieur Stobart. I trust you have obeyed my instructions not to leave Paris.
Of course, Inspector.
Good. You clearly know which side your cookie is buttered. Now, I require your presence tomorrow at the murder scene for a reconstruction.
I see.
12 o'clock sharp, monsieur. Or, as you would say, high noon.
Sure.
Any failure to comply, and I shall have you extraordinarily rendered. Have a nice day now.
And you. That was Nave. We're required back at the gallery tomorrow for a crime scene reconstruction.
Let me guess. Non-attendance is a criminal offense?
You got it. Not a sound. The horn wasn't working. Slosha. Whiskey. Whew, very strong stuff. I decided to leave the handbrake alone. It was the lever to open the hood. I popped open the van's hood. The engine was held together by rust and dirt. Everything was covered in a sticky film of dirty black oil. Half the wiring wasn't connected to anything. It was clear why the horn hadn't made a noise. Neither hornpipe was connected to either the battery or the cab. It was the van's engine. I didn't really have any reason to sabotage it. A bundle of wires came into the engine bay from the dashboard. Many of the wires seemed to lead nowhere. It was one of two horns in the van. It didn't seem to be connected to anything else under the hood. Two wires hung loose from it. A bundle of short, severed wires was connected to the battery. None of the wires were connected to anything. It was the van battery. I needed to hook this up to the horn somehow. I had found just what I needed. Two lengths of wire. It was the old piece of wire that I'd found in the junk pile. The engine bay was a mess. I connected the wires from the cab to the horn. The cable I'd used was long, but it did the job. I snipped the wire in half. I connected the wires from the cab to the horn. The wire was just long enough to connect the battery to the horn. Everything was wired up. The horn had power. I figured that should get Hobbs' attention.
All right, hold your blooming horses. What are you up to with my van?
Hello there. We fixed your horn.
So I hear. Now what are you doing in my yard?
Mr. Hobbs, do you mind if we ask you a few questions?
Yes.
Yes, you will answer a few questions?
Yes, I do mind. Clear?
Not really.
Good. Now get lost.
Well, that could have gone better.
He's not exactly the friendliest of characters.
I decided to give it another blast.
For crying out loud, will you leave my van alone?
Sorry, just need a quick word, Mr. Hobbs. Afternoon, Mr. Hobbs. We're from the model agency.
About blooming time. I'm on a deadline. You better come up. About time you two showed up.
Hello, Mr. Hobbs. I was just wondering if...
Can it, Goldilocks? I don't have time for chit-chat. Just get undressed behind that screen.
Undressed?
That was the deal. An extra 20 quid because I need you with your kit off.
The studio was freezing.
And as for you, darling, no need to get undressed. I've got a vivid imagination, so I'll just use that. Either way, just go sit over there on that rug and give me your best Belle Epoque floozy. That's perfect. Just hold it there.
Nico made for a good distraction. I just needed to figure out how to get a look inside that portfolio. Hobbs was the very picture of the booze-soaked artist. Nico played the part of Hobbs's muse perfectly. I have to admit I felt a twinge of jealousy. Hobbs had loosely sketched a young couple and an elderly lady sitting next to an overturned picnic basket. The three characters were naked. Behind them, two men in suits were chatting. A variety of liquor bottles, all empty. It was the same folder that Madovsky had taken from his cupboard. It was the only lead to the painting we had. I needed to look inside. But Hobbs was watching it like a hawk.
Hi, what do you think you're doing?
Oh, sorry. I was just going to take a look at some of your pictures. You're very good.
I know, and that portfolio is private. I'm not paying you to gawp around my studio. Get your blooming clothes off!
Sorry. I didn't need to sit. It was time for action. I wasn't going to mess around with that wiring. The fuse box was emitting a sinister buzzing sound. It should have been condemned years ago. The thermostat looked older than the building itself.
Hey! Leave that dial alone. The heating gobbles up all the power and the circuits can't take it.
Sorry. I turned the thermostat down again. Wow, an old Bofson Wang stereo. I hadn't seen one of those for years. The record had stopped. It was Jasmine Breeze by the Hairy Lobsters. Hobbs seemed to have a thing for 70s psychedelic jams. Burroughs, Dick, Rand. Hobbs liked his literature heavy and paranoid.